as a child. Greetings, Slimesters, and welcome to another episode of Nightmares as a Child, a minisode series where I share with you some of the most terrifying, nightmare-inducing moments extracted from the shadows of 90s Nick history. I'm your host, Brett, and today we have a tale that may prompt you to rewind it a few times to witness the horror. For anyone who remembers enjoying TV in the 90s, they remember video stores. This weird, archaic, seemingly type of place that tons of people would go to on weekends to rent VHS tapes, video games, DVDs. Heck, you can even buy snacks there too to bring home with you for the entertainment. I have a particular story that might fall between the realm of nightmare and real life paranormal occurrence that maybe you can help me figure out what exactly happened. It all started way back in 1993, one Friday night. My grandparents hung out with me because my parents were really exhausted from work and they decided to drop me off at their place for the weekend just so that they could recover. And I remember asking them, Grammy and Bompie, can you take me to the video store? Because there was really nothing much that we could do there. After dinner, they decided to take me. And we jumped into my grandfather's Buick, putted all the way to this local video store that I had not recognized before. It was much smaller than the one I was used to that my parents took me to at, which was on the other side of town where my grandparents lived. What I was unexpectedly witnessing once we pulled up to the video store was just how eerie it felt, even before I even got out of the car. Had some flickering fluorescent lights to it. It was in this like shabby white old building that looked like it was part of a house on the bottom floor. It had some like weathering around the windows and the door. It was all scratched up, metal and glass. And I did not feel very comfortable, and it probably wasn't very sanitary either. But my grandfather reassured me that everything was fine. He'd be right next to me. And we went in together. And we were looking for a couple of tapes to watch. He picked Action Adventure 1 to watch with my grandmother, and he said that I could pick a kid's tape so that I could watch it too. I didn't really have an easy time finding what I was looking for. A lot of the tapes were very unfamiliar to me. Especially as a 5-year-old, I spent most of my time plopped in front of the TV just watching Nickelodeon nonstop, and I didn't really have concept of what VHS tapes were. I was still too much on the young side because this would have put me in kindergarten or first grade at the time. So anyways, I was in this VHS store and I finally found the kids section tucked in the back left corner of it, of these like 4 to 5 aisles of just those metal rung aisles that are like covered in that plasticky rubbery material. And I was a little taken aback that I saw only a couple of tapes in the kids aisle. Apparently they didn't have many left that Friday night because we got there at around like 8:30, and I guess we just missed the rush from town. So I only saw 2 tapes there and one empty semi-transparent rental tape cover. One of them was Barney and Friends, which I definitely did not want to watch that, even though I liked Barney a few years earlier. The other one was this orange tape in a black cover called Nick's Friendship. It was a Nickelodeon tape. And I was really excited to see that because it was something that I recognized. So I immediately snatched it off the runged shelf that was there and dashed over to my grandfather. We went over to the checkout corner where the cashier was, and all I could think about was, ooh, I'm gonna have such a great night tonight. You know, I got four shows here from Nickelodeon on it. Because I was so sure, I just slid it above on the table, the countertop, where the guy was checking out the videos. He's like, are you sure you want that one? No one has rented it in a while. And I responded, yeah, this is Nickelodeon. I love Nickelodeon. He just gave me an eye roll, scoffed, and used his computer to type up a rental date. And so we left from the video shop. My grandfather and I jumped back into his Buick and rolled right back home within a few minutes. It was about 9 o'clock at the time. I remember because I stared at the clock when we got into the door and immediately dashed into the living room to put it into the VHS player. And after I got my grandparents down into this living room that was in the edge of their split level, where like it was a bunch of dark wood panels all over the walls, and they had this like beige corduroy reclining love seat, we ended up watching the videos together. The action adventure one turned out to be Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, which I was definitely too young for. I pretty much fell asleep right after the lady in it looked at her hand and she saw a bug on it. It was like around the third waypoint, and I ended up waking up much later. I didn't know what time it was, but my grandparents were no longer in the living room downstairs of the split level. And I was just on the corduroy love seat recliner by myself, and I was staring at the TV that was in front of me. It was like one of those wooden TV cabinets that just sat on top of the carpet. It pretty much looked like a table with the little knobs on the side, and there was a tape deck underneath. And I ended up seeing nothing but snow, like that TV static that's like, and just nonstop snow with like this weird scan line that would go, graduate through it like up and down. I was confused because I thought, maybe the tape was over. And when I went closer to rewind the tape, because I didn't know where the remote was for the VCR, it was like lost somewhere, maybe under a couch or chair in the living room. So I go to rewind it, and then immediately I just press play once I see an image, as soon as an image pops up, and it turns out to be this girl who has kind of dirty, messy hair. She's in this beige looking nightgown, and she's just staring in a mirror. She was staring at a girl who was screaming and ran out of the room. Now I know it was the Tale of the Lonely Ghost from Are You Afraid of the Dark, but back then I had no idea what this was, because I didn't see that, even though I used to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark on SNICK. I was really just more looking for like Clarissa Explains It All and Ren and Stimpy, because I really like those shows. But I was really fixated on the way the girl looked. She was very freaky, and I tried to play it, but the VCR wouldn't play. Like maybe the button was stuck. I just kept clicking it like, and it was just stuck on her frame. And then this is where things get really strange, because I don't know if I dreamed this or if it actually happened, and it just was in one of those moments that I couldn't explain because no one was around to be an eyewitness. But then I saw the girl in the mirror on the TV look at me, and I jumped back. I was freaked out. And in that moment, I just saw her float right out of the TV. Like she was like a ghost who could somehow travel for the TV. And she was just slowly floating at me and staring at me with her eyes locked onto mine, floating right straight towards me. And this was really freaky, considering I've seen The Ring, but that movie didn't come out till like around the early 2000s. And this I'd never even heard of or seen of anything like this before. So naturally my response was to scream like, get away from me, I don't know what's even going on here. And I ran into my bedroom where I was staying at my grandparents. And I just remember like flipping the covers over me, trying to hide under the pillows, sink my body into the cushy mattress so that I couldn't be seen, and just like squinting my eyes as hard as I could, trying not to shake, trying to keep my breath from heavy panting, and just hoping that she did not notice me. Like, please go away. Please go away. Please go away. I don't want you to be here. Please go away. And what happened was that I heard nothing. All I heard was the static faintly from the living room downstairs. So I thought it was okay to go out. And then I get up, I take the covers off, I slowly turn the knob, and then when I open it, I go outside. I'm in the hallway, and it's dark. My grandparents are asleep, their door's closed, across from mine. And all I see is just darkness. It must be after midnight now. Like, I can barely make out the forms of the house plants and the pictures on the wall. Everything just looks like dark gray blobs. Even a little bit snowy looking too, like that graininess that you kind of get from seeing in black and white at night. And I remember looking over the corner as I was taking a few steps forward. only hearing that snow from the TV. And there she was. She was staring at me on the steps leading downstairs into the living room. She was just looking straight, and then she looked up at me as she saw me, and then I ran again. I couldn't even tell what was going on. I started banging on the doors. I was like picking up, wake up. There's someone in the house. And then, of course, after a few moments later, my grandparents opened the door, wondering what the heck is going on. And they're like, in a daze, Brett, what are you doing? It's like 2 a.m. And I kept telling them, there's a ghost in here. I think it came from the TV. And then, of course, I turn around to point and show them the girl from the stairwell. And they come with me, and no one's there. She's gone. But she was there. I just saw her. And then, of course, my grandma was like, you need to just go back to bed. Maybe it was a nightmare. And then my grandfather said, well, what caused you to see that? And I told her, it was on the VHS tape. Go look at the tape. So while my grandmother went back to bed, my grandfather and I went downstairs into the dark living room with the wood panels on the wall. It made everything extra dark and extra creepy. And he flipped on the lights. He saw the VHS tape projecting on the screen, and it was stopped on Ren and Stimpy. And I don't remember it being stopped on that. It was the Littlest Giant episode where Stimpy was like the giant and Ren was like the little Robin Hood style friend that was with him. I was confused because I didn't remember watching the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode when I watched the SNICK tape. I don't even remember watching most of the SNICK tape because I was like in and out of sleep down there. But then I told him, no, look at the ghost. Don't look at the VHS tape. And then he found the remote that was underneath the recliner, and he just hit stop and rewound the tape. And so he told me, maybe we should just return the tape. It sounds like it gave you a lot of nightmares, and I didn't want you to pick something scary. So I never got to finish the tape after that day because it freaked me out so much. I didn't know what to think. We ended up returning the tape the next day to the same creepy video store with the blinking fluorescent lights. I just remember the look on the cashier's face as I went back inside with my grandfather and shoved the tapes over the countertop above my head. And he said, scared you, didn't it? And I thought that was a really weird thing for the video rental guy to tell me, because he somehow knew something was off about the tape. Or maybe I was just misinterpreting what he was telling me because I had a scared stiff look on my face when, I was sheepishly pushing the videotapes back to him to return them. And so after that day, I returned home from my grandparents, still shaken by that experience, whether or not the lonely ghost from that Are You Afraid of the Dark tale on the SNICK tape actually came out of the TV or not and tried to attack me. I don't know if it was a dream. I don't know if it was like during the witching hour where weird spiritual things happen, or if I was just imagining things because I was nodding off in and out of the experience. So Slimesters, whoever's listening to this, let me know what you think your theory is on the cursed SNICK tape that I encountered, and maybe we can figure out what happened together, or if anyone else had an encounter with a VHS tape where another character creepily came out of the tube to terrorize you. All right, Slimesters, I think that's my tale for today. I'm going to rewind this tape and return it to the video deposit slot at the video store downtown. So tune in next time for another Nightmares as a Child tale, when I pull another dark nightmare-induced memory from the 90s SNICK vault inside my head. Splat you later.
If you're afraid of Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark?
That's only natural. Your worst fears come to life in the scary tales of